This is incredible. I do not know how they've managed to make a fragrance this good, but they've done it. The latest release from Creed is Absolu Aventus. This video is not about this fragrance, by the way. I've already done that one, even though I think this is a fantastic scent. It smells like Aventus, but it's darker and spicier. Basically, Aventus intense. But where's the hype? Maybe the lack of enthusiasm towards this fragrance and Creed in general is because people are falling out of love with Creed. Not because the scents are bad, because they're not. I think this is a really great scent, but because the prices keep going up and up and up. From what I've picked up on by speaking with everybody who leaves comments on this channel and just generally reading Facebook groups and getting a gauge of how people feel within the fragrance community, I think a lot of people feel that reformulations have left Creed's fragrances weaker. Not only have we got weaker fragrances, but we've got higher price tags, and those two things combined have understandably left people a little bit disgruntled. This feeling generally seems to be targeted more on Aventus than any other of Creed's fragrances. A lot of people say if you bought Creed back in the day, say between 2010 and 2017, you were getting a much stronger, more intense fragrance. It had more balls to it, more depth, a bit more intensity. My bottle is from 2016 and it smells great to me, but I have to say I've not purchased a bottle since then. I've not purchased a more recent formulation of Aventus, so I don't actually know where it's at the moment. What I can say is though, I had an experience just this weekend gone that I want to share with you, which might give you some idea of where we're at with Aventus in terms of how strong it is these days. I was watching Peter Kay, who is a British comedian in Manchester, and I was walking to the gig behind a friend of mine and I got a waft of Creed's Aventus. I said, "Rob, you're wearing Aventus?" And he said, "Yeah, I am." I said, "What, genuine Aventus?" Because I had recommended him some clones. He said, "Yeah, real Aventus." And you know what? I sprayed it about 8-9 hours ago and I was still getting wafts. That's not a weak fragrance. If I'm getting his sillage 8-9 hours later, that's a fragrance that's doing a good job. And that was a bottle I think probably purchased last year, so a very recent Aventus formulation. Maybe there isn't a problem anymore. Have you bought one in the last couple of years? Maybe it is a bit different, maybe it is weaker than it used to be, but I think it's still, going off this experience that I had, I think it's still performing decently. Interestingly, I mentioned I recommended him some clones as well. He tried them. He didn't feel like any of the clones were really doing the job of the original. He felt he had to resort to actual Aventus to get the performance he wanted. He felt all the clones were lacking in performance compared to the original. When I did my video on Absolu Aventus when it was released, I was quite surprised that overwhelmingly in the comments people seemed anti-Creed, and this was mainly based on the price that they're charging. I know this because most people hadn't smelled Absolu Aventus at the time I did, because I got it a little earlier than the UK release, so mainly based on the price that Creed was charging for this, which at full retail on the Creed website is £320 for 75ml. This is the 75ml bottle. That's insane. A couple of months down the line, I have seen it selling a little bit cheaper. A big store in London, Liberty, they are selling it on their website for £288, so a little bit cheaper, but still pricey. This leads me on to the fragrance that prompted me to make this video, and it's Perfume Parlour's version of Absolu Aventus. They've recently just released it. I was pretty surprised they came out so fast with it. I guess clone houses can do that these days, but I wanted to try it out for myself, and if you've not smelled the original or if you've not bought it because it's too pricey, I thought I would share my thoughts on what I think about it. It's good. Perfume Parlour's Avalanche line, which is what their Aventus clone line is called, it's pretty good. They've got some great releases. There isn't a bad one. Some, I think, are better than others. They've got many versions based on the many versions out there of Aventus, but generally their Avalanche line is great. So I was interested to try Avalanche Absolu, and actually, I think it's the greatest. I think it is the closest that they've got to any version of Aventus. Not 90%, not 97%, not 98%, not even 99%. For my money, they've got this one bang on. and I don't know how they've done it. I know there's chromatography machines and it just tells them what molecules to put in a fragrance, but it's all dependent on ingredients, and usually luxury fragrance brands use higher quality ingredients, more natural ingredients, and clone brands can get an approximation of that. Sometimes they can get nearly all the way there, sometimes not so close, but to get all the way there, they cannot be using the same ingredients as Creed, can they? Unless Creed aren't using expensive ingredients? But they have to be. At these prices, surely they are using the highest quality ingredients available to mankind. But that really is irrelevant as long as the fragrance smells good. If it smells luxurious, if it smells high quality, that's all that matters. And Aventus Absolu absolutely does smell really high quality. It smells like a quality Creed fragrance. With the Perfume Parlor, the fruit smells natural and juicy, the spices really pop, the wood has all the depth to it, the same amount of depth and quality as the Creed. This smells amazing, and the unbelievable thing is, not only have they got the scent to smell like the Creed, they seem to have captured this Creed magic, this Creed quality. A lot of times fragrances smell pretty much the same, but there's just that little bit of something, that little bit of magic that's not just sprinkled on top. But I feel like somehow Perfume Parlor have managed to capture that Creed magic and sprinkled it all the way on top. In fact, it's so sprinkled with Creed magic that I think if Creed smell this, they've got to be a little bit peeved about this. Anyone who's ever tried Perfume Parlor fragrances will know where I'm coming from with this. I love the brand. I love that they got me hooked on fragrances. A lot of times they can be really great, but sometimes some of them aren't quite as great. I wouldn't go as far as to say bad, but they don't quite get as close. And the ones that don't maybe open a little bit differently, and then perhaps in the dry down they get closer to the original. And actually you find that with another very popular Aventus copy, which is Club de Nuit Intense Man from Armaf. That opens a little more abrasively, not quite as natural smelling, not as rounded, doesn't open with that Creed magic, but as it dries down it does settle to be closer to the original. And then some Perfume Parlor fragrances, overall they can smell quite good, but they're a thinner, more faded facsimile of the original fragrance. Not so with Avalanche Absolu. They've got this one bang on, and this is the EDP version as well. Perfume Parlor also do X-rate versions, which are obviously higher oil concentrations, so I can only imagine that they're going to be even stronger. So as soon as I got Avalanche Absolu in, I wore it for the gym. That was my first wearing, and actually I got into the gym and I was bordering on being self-conscious that my fragrance was smelling too strong. I hadn't oversprayed it. I'd done a normal sort of 4 or 5 sprays. It was pumping off me. I like smelling good to go to the gym, but you don't want to be choking people out while they're exercising. That's not good. You might lose your membership. Let's talk about some prices. This 13ml EDP sprayer from Perfume Parlor was £8 per mil. The original Absolu Aventus works out at £4.27. £4.27 for 1 mil of fragrance. Avalanche Absolu works out at 39 pence. So you've got £4.27 and 39 pence, a little bit of a difference. The 75ml bottle of Aventus Absolu, as I mentioned, is £320 full retail. The equivalent size, Perfume Parlor don't do a 75ml, but based on the price per mil, 75ml of Avalanche Absolu costs £29.25. I think word must have already got out, even though this is a new release from Perfume Parlor, because they are all but sold out on their website. I think the only version left is their 50ml bottle of the X-Rate version, and if this is strong, then the X-Rate must be next level nuclear. But I'm sure they'll be getting new stock in, so if you're interested in picking it up, then keep an eye on the site, see when they've got stock back in. So all this leads me on to the age-old discussion that we've had many times here in the fragrance community. What do we think about fragrance cloning? Obviously, some people are for cloning, some people are against cloning fragrances. The argument will rage on until the end of time, but I understand the people who are against cloning fragrances feel that it's copying someone else's hard work, that it's deceitful, it's deceptive, it's not right. What's interesting though is that some people feel Creed may be guilty of this themselves. And not just Creed, many luxury brands are taking established, very popular scent profiles like Aventus, like Baccarat Rouge 540, like Tom Ford's Oud Wood, and they are peddling it as their own creation. I've walked around Essence in Italy, which is, I think, the biggest fragrance trade fair in the world, and it's very common to smell a brand's version of an Aventus or a Baccarat Rouge 540, and they've made up this whole cock and bull backstory about how this fragrance was created, the inspiration behind this fragrance. It was someone who grew up on a farm in Grasse, whose granddad was really into creating their own fragrances, and the smell reminds him of his granddad, who's sadly long since gone. Really, you created a scent that smells pretty much the same as Aventus because it was an inspiration from your granddad? No. So clone houses are cloning fragrances, but luxury brands are cloning the fragrances of other luxury brands. And which is worse, the clone house that is being transparent about what they're doing, or the luxury brand that isn't being transparent in any way? They're in fact trying to trick you into believing a lie to buy a fragrance that they're saying that they created when they didn't. One's copying and telling the truth about copying, the other is copying and then lying about the fact that they're copying. I'll leave it up to you to decide which you think is worse. If you have a problem with cloned fragrances, then I'm sorry, but you've got a problem with the perfume industry as a whole, because it's going on all the time with clone houses, with luxury brands. It is part of it. Cloning is happening. Sometimes we know about it, sometimes we don't. We may be getting to the point where some brands are getting too greedy that they're actually pricing out the people who did love and support them. They're making fragrances too expensive even for the fanboys and girls out there. And when a brand does that, they are forcing people who want to support them to go and find more affordable alternative options, because even though they love the fragrances, they're just not worth selling a kidney for. This is why I wanted to make this video, to let you know about this Perfume Parlor version, because a lot of the time, alternative affordable options, you sort of get what you pay for. You get something close, but it's not quite there. I feel that Perfume Parlor, in all honesty, have got this fragrance right there. And before you write it down in the comments, no, I do not work for Perfume Parlor. This is not a sponsored video. Yes, I do have an affiliate link, which you will find down in the description. If you use that, that's great, because it allows me to continue creating these videos on this channel as my job. It helps me feed my family. They did not send me this bottle. I purchased this with my own money. They have no idea I'm making this video. I just thought this was useful info and I wanted to share it with you. Have you tried Perfume Parlor's Avalanche Absolu? If you have, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What do you think about Creed's prices at the moment? Are they too high, or do you think you get what you pay for? And what do you think about this sly cloning that these luxury brands are partaking in? Get it all down there in the comments. Get it off your chest. It'll make you feel good. All right, that's it from me on this one. If you fancy picking up Avalanche Absolu, like I said, the affiliate link is down in the description. You can use code FM10 at checkout. That's going to save you 10% off your entire order. I hope you found this video useful. I hope you liked it. If you did, hit like, subscribe if you haven't already, and if you do all that, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.